Nick Cater from the Menzies Research Centre in Sydney wrote an interesting op-ed opinion piece for The Australian this week, in which he explains that the AEC took more than 150,000 people off the electoral roll last year because they had passed away. And he notes that the sad truth for the Liberal and National parties and all other minor centre-right parties is that most of those are probably Conservative. Nick writes that in 2019, 1.65 million voters put Liberal or LNP candidates first in inner metropolitan seats. This time, 1.23 million did so, a loss of more than a quarter. Add in losses outside the metropolitan seats, and the number is over a million that have walked away from our Conservative parties. Nick notes that Labor is no more or less popular now than it was when Bill Shorten lost. Back then, political commentators said Shorten's 34.7% of the primary vote was a disaster, whereas the same result this time round, Labor got 34.6 this time, is hailed as a triumph. Labor didn't win because people flocked to them, enthralled by Albanese's brilliance and charm. Nick, like many other commentators on the right, says the unmistakable conclusion is that it was a gift from the Liberal Party which forfeited the right to govern because it failed to inspire voters. To win over new voters, it'll have to improve its appeal to younger generations, women and immigrants. Every incoming coalition leader has been acutely aware of this challenge since the Howard era, yet none have managed to rise. That's Nick Cater from the Menzies Research Centre, and Freya Leach is the Director of the Centre for Youth Policy at the Menzies Research Centre. She's young, she's female, she's also the President of the University of Sydney Conservative Club and a former Liberal Party candidate for the New South Wales election. Freya, thanks for joining us once again. Politics is downstream from culture. You're in the thick of the culture wars, I guess. How can the Liberals and Nationals appeal to younger people, women and immigrants, as Nick says, without getting lost in the left-wing hell of identity politics and betraying the core values of individualism and liberty?
Well, I think we have to start by actually articulating what our values are. I mean, there is this tendency in the Liberal Party to kind of trade off the legacy of Howard and Costello and even Menzies to an extent. But the reality is I was barely born during the Howard Costello years. A lot of migrants weren't in the country. And we can't, 25 years later, keep claiming we're the better economic managers, we're the party for small business, we're the party for lower taxes, for less debt, if our record does not stack up to that. And people simply just don't know what we stand for. And in the absence of a positive narrative being put forward, Labor is then able to launch all the scare campaigns they want. And that's what they've done. So I think we really have to get back to basics, articulating from a philosophical level what the Liberal Party stands for and why it's actually good. Engage in the battle of ideas. That's what Menzies did when he was establishing the Liberal Party, his Forgotten People broadcasts. They laid out a vision for Australia. They diagnosed the problems of the day, and he laid out a really clear philosophical understanding of the country and where we should be going. And that's what we have to get back to. Enough of the Band-Aid solutions, the handouts 3 weeks before elections. We have to get back to our values, which are rooted in our philosophy. And then we have to prosecute the argument as to why they are actually the best for Australia.
I mean, you're in the thick of it, really. I mean, you're in at the university. Younger Australians are very left-wing. And as Nick points out, the older Conservative Australians are dying out. What hope is there, do you think, of being able to convert the thinking of younger Australians who do seem to sing this one core? I mean, young people have always been traditionally more left-wing. I was more left-wing when I was younger, but it doesn't seem to be changing with particularly the millennials up to 40. I mean, what's the sense? Is it what you're saying, that we need a philosophical core to get young people to really buy into these ideas more?
Well, ultimately, the truth is on our side. The left's ideas tend to unravel themselves and lead to disastrous outcomes wherever they're implemented. So we do know that sooner or later, people will start to see through a lot of their ideas and policies, and they'll wake up and realize Australia's worse off for it. That'll be our moment to capitalize on that. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point where we just have to wait for Labor's abject failure. But I mean, I do think there are some bright spots. So Gen Z men are actually more conservative than particularly millennials, but they're very conservative. And in fact, in the last election, a lot of them abandoned the Liberal Party to vote for One Nation and further right-wing parties. So I do think it is starting to shift. And we are the generation that has really lived through the left's full-on assault on our institutions, on our history, on our education systems. And we know the results. 36% of young Australians recorded having a mental disorder last year. We are economically probably the first generation to have lower living standards than our parents. We're inheriting a country with almost $1 trillion in debt. Our defense forces are wholly unprepared for a regional conflict. Like, our country is stalling, if not going backwards, and it certainly will be going backwards after another 3 years of Labor. So we just have to articulate what is actually going on, diagnose the problems, talk about our values, and then provide some actual solutions. I don't think this is irreversible. Young people carry Trump to power. Young people were more likely to support the Canadian Conservatives than were baby boomers. Young people in Europe are voting for right-of-centre parties in record numbers. There is a revival, a cultural revival of Western civilization happening among young people. But young people here in Australia simply haven't woken up yet.
Eddie, you're optimistic, though. You think is it ever going to be cool to be conservative here? Do you think is it starting to?
This is interesting because being left-wing, that was the counterculture against the establishment. But from about 2000 onwards, they became the establishment. So now, look, I do get abused a fair bit online, so I won't claim I'm the coolest person alive, but being conservative definitely is countercultural. So if that's what makes you cool, come join the conservative side.
There you go. You're the new rebels.
And I just totally agree with what Freya's just said. Yeah. But I'll just add this. Here's the problem at the moment. The problem is the Liberal Party politicians, and indeed the Nats as well, have not had the guts or the energy to get up and go and actually explain what the parties stand for to those young people. They actually haven't done it. Yeah. I mean, a very quick example, which is a very detailed example, but it's like diving into detail. But the workers on Snowy Hydro are being paid $200,000 and are striking to get even more money for their underground work. They are all on the top marginal rate. They're paying 50 cents in the dollar tax on every extra dollar they earn. And yet the coalition never had the guts to explain that Albanese and Chalmers pulling away the the phase 3 tax cuts was actually going after them. Instead, they allowed the Labor Party to frame it as that's all about tax cuts for the rich. So they were never prepared to argue and explain, that actually there are blue collar workers in this country earning big bucks who needed tax relief. I've got young people who work in my company who are in the second highest tax bracket, and within a year or two, they will be on the highest tax bracket. Yeah, I tell them that they need tax relief.
Well, the number of young people who voted against their own interests in the past election, it's just extraordinary.
The Liberal, my thought, just on I totally agree with what Freya just said. My thought, the add-on to that is we need Liberal and National Party politicians to go out and have the guts to make the argument. But guess what? They're gutless and they're lazy.
We need more.
That's my thought. Yeah, they are gutless and they are lazy.
Yeah. And we're lacking...
And the election campaign showed that in general.
Yeah. We need more articulate people like Freya coming through the ranks.
Absolutely.
All right, Freya, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you spending the time with us today. Campbell, thank you very much once again for coming in. We'll see you again. I'd like to have you both back on the show as regularly as you'd like to come.
Freya might have had enough of me already.
Thank you so much, Freya. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care. I want to tell you about a fantastic initiative that's happening out of Canberra right now. It's called the Awards for Men in Leadership. The awards are given out on International Men's Day, which is November 19. They're designed to combat the increasing denigration of masculinity in our culture and the widespread discrimination against males inside and outside the workplace. The goal is to lift the well-being of boys and men and facilitate healthy collaboration between men and women. The awards for men in leadership are designed to inspire men
to make a bigger contribution to family and community and to elevate positive male role models. There's a $10,000 scholarship for studies and professional development, public recognition for the winners, and a year of mentorship and executive coaching for each recipient. It's targeted at young men and middle-aged guys who fought their way up from some other kind of disadvantage. This is the third year of the awards and it'll be the biggest yet. To find out more, just search up the Awards for Men in Leadership on Facebook. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damien Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.